It's Tuesday, August 2. In the headlines, emancipation celebrations. Jamaicans urged to remember the contributions of their ancestors. Regionally, Trinidad and Tobago's emancipation celebration. Internationally, grain-loaded ship leaves Ukraine for the first time since the war began. And in sports, Jamaica is making moves in the boxing ring. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I am Simone Absalom Gale. Prime Minister Andrew Holness is encouraging Jamaicans to reflect on the country's struggles and progress since emancipation. In his Emancipation Day message, Mr. Holness says, as we celebrate our freedom, Jamaicans must remember those whose action contributed to it.
We remember and give honor to those who gave their lives, made the ultimate sacrifice to make our freedom meaningful today.
Noting the significant events of Jamaica's history that led to political independence and economic development, he explains that progress was directly linked to the struggles the nation has undergone.
As we celebrate emancipation in our 60th year of independence, we must reflect on what we used our freedom to achieve. Any objective assessment of the 128 years from emancipation to independence will conclude that the Jamaicans, throughout that period, made great strides, even though they started with no assets or endowment, particularly in land. They had no savings or wealth to pass down to generations. Education was primary and illiteracy was high. Violence, a means of control during slavery, became part of our socialization through generations. The economy simply could not absorb the labor force and pay meaningful wages. Despite these disadvantages, however, Jamaica is among the oldest and continuous liberal democracies in the world and is the first black democratic nation. We have a free press, a highly participatory civil society. We have a strong government and civil bureaucracy. We are ranked highly on many development indices.
The Prime Minister says Jamaica continues to be a respected voice in international affairs.
I want you to situate yourself in the generations of Jamaicans who struggled with the troubles and challenges of their time. Remember how they persevered, kept the faith, and eventually overcame to leave us a legacy on which to build.
In making his Emancipation Day message, opposition leader Mark Golding says Jamaicans should remember the ancestors' contribution to the nation gaining its freedom.
As we remember, we also renew our commitment to defending the rights and freedoms won through our ancestors' blood, sweat and tears over centuries of courageous struggle. Our history must fully recognize the central contribution and value of the resistance to slavery by the slaves themselves.
He notes that slavery was a violent practice and violent behavior has been inculcated in the society,
driving high levels of fear and dimming the flame of hope in our people. It is preventing our nation from achieving its full potential. We must emancipate ourselves from that aspect of mental slavery, which makes us too quick to anger and too willing to use violence in our everyday lives. Emancipation Day 2022 is a time to recommit ourselves to peaceful coexistence, to tolerance for the views of others, and to love and respect for all.
Should parents be qualified to homeschool their children? The issue was discussed in the latest meeting of Parliament Joint Select Committee reviewing the Jamaica Teaching Council Act 2022. Here's more in this report.
Representative from the Jamaica Association of Homeschoolers, Shane Panton, says the current bill under review is undermining the role played by parents in children's lives, whilst listing additional reasons behind the association's disapproval of some aspects of the bill.
The bill trivializes the role and responsibility of parents in the development of their own children. Thirdly, the bill nullifies, though maybe not intentionally, the efforts already made by other state agencies and the success realized by persons who consistently supplement learning either for economic gain or voluntarily. Section 4, subsection 1, item E of the JTC bill inappropriately and awkwardly inserts the parent as one such person to whom the regulations should apply.
A parent, Lindell Vitali, who was present at the committee, shared his homeschooling experience with his child, who felt more comfortable in a home environment. He is advocating for the continued homeschooling efforts from parents.
We officially began our homeschooling journey in 2016 after a series of incidents with, at the time, my wife's son, the child's teachers, and her deliberate misrepresentation of stories told to her supervisor. Thankfully, after bringing the incidents to the principal and series of meetings, she eventually admitted to the untruthful. He was 6 years old at the time. These incidents ultimately scared our son, and prior to our departure from the traditional system, he was pleading to us to homeschool him as he was terrified to attend school. He would often explain that preferred learning was with the family was opposed to school. Please bear in mind, this was a vetted teacher with many years of expertise and training in a well-established institution. I say to this, abuse can take place at any level, at any time, at any character. It is our responsibility as a family entity to serve and protect our children. At this point in our life, we made a decision that ultimately changed the course of our life. Every choice thereafter became easier, remaking family decisions and creating a stable environment, one in which our child may thrive and be encouraged to be an independent learner.
In response, Senator Natalie Campbell-Rodriguez says she understands the calls from parents, however, knows that she understands the need for a traditional school.
I think my daughter, even though if she had different parents, she could have benefited from homeschooling. I think the formal education system did her better justice than I could have done if I allowed myself to take on something I was not capable of.
Senator Campbell-Rodriguez then addressed in disapproval a response made by Mr. Panton regarding his support of an illiterate parent playing a role in homeschooling their children, and mentioned the ramifications for the country in the long run.
Even if someone is illiterate, they should be allowed to homeschool. I 100% disagree. Because while homeschooling is not in itself a practice to replicate what happens in the classroom, we still have a right to protect children at any cost. In this process, we must always err on the side of protecting the child, not religion, not parental preference, but what is best for the child. If we allow someone who is not able to read and write to a particular level to be responsible for educating our child, our children, the country will pay the price for that in the future. Even if not in the now, the country will pay the price.
According to the Homeschool Jamaica website, the Education Act 1980 states that it shall be the duty of the parent of every child of compulsory school age to cause him to receive full-time education suitable to his age and ability, either by regular attendance at school or otherwise. Reporting for PBCJ, I'm Danita Rodney.
Miss Kingston and St. Andrew, Veronique Bowen, is this year's Festival Queen. The Miss Jamaica Festival Queen competition began in 1963. The competition is one of the highlights of the Emancipation and Independence celebrations. The contestants at the national coronation are the parish queens, who have been crowned during the 13 parish coronations held annually across the island. It's 13 parishes because one queen is usually named for Kingston and St. Andrew. Here are the highlights.
Ladies and gentlemen, our third place, second runner-up is... Come with me, Jenny. LaShawn Redwood. She also won Best Gown.
Yes.
She also won Best Gown. She looks good though. First runner-up goes to Sherry Gay Johnson. Miss Clarendon.
Miss Clarendon.
Your Miss Jamaica Festival Queen is Veronique Bond. Kingston and St. Andrew. What you got big letters? Them are big cut-out letters.
Them come prepared.
That look like Grand
But
Gala
it's
cut-out
spelling
letters.
upside down now.
Bell.
Bell.
Bell is in the audience.
Veronique.
They came ready
Oh my.
with the classroom props.
Hey.
Congratulations.
$600,000.
The PBCJ would like to give a special appreciation to the carpenters, artisans, technical teams and creatives who put together the various floats that hit the streets of Kingston on Emancipation Day, August 1. The Independence Float and Street Parade were part of the country's 60th Independence Anniversary celebrations. The floats were creatively named Sounds of Jamaica, Reap What You Sow, Bridge to Progress, God is Love, Sweet Jamaica, Diamond Heroes and Crime Stop for Paradise. The theme for the parade was Reigniting a Nation for Peace, Love and Unity. Here are some highlights.
Ladies and gentlemen, happy Emancipation Day!
Remember, if you missed out on the excitement, you can watch it on our YouTube page at PBC Jamaica. We move from a civic responsibility to your health. COVID-19 is still being transmitted. New variants are still surfacing. The Omicron variants are the most transmissible of the coronaviruses. In this episode of Living Healthy, we're going to give you some answers to several questions like what do we know so far about these subvariants of Omicron and are they more severe? We'll be hearing from the World Health Organization's technical lead for COVID-19, Dr. Maria Vankerkov.
What do we know so far about the subvariants of Omicron? Are they more severe? Are they more transmissible? And how is risk being perceived by the experts and the public? Hello and welcome to Science in 5. I'm Vismita Gupta-Smith. We are talking to Dr. Maria Vankerkov today. Welcome, Maria. Let's start with the subvariants of Omicron that we are seeing so far. What do we know about them?
So hi, Vismita. There are many subvariants of Omicron, all classified as Omicron and variants of concern that WHO is tracking. Actually, many of them. The ones that we are focusing on right now are particularly BA.4, BA.5, and BA.2.75. Now, there are several other sublineages that we are tracking at a global level, but I want to reiterate that all of the sublineages of Omicron are classified as variants of concern. Each one of these variants, each iteration of SARS-CoV-2 are of concern for WHO because this virus is circulating at such an intense level globally.
Maria, what do we know about the transmissibility and the severity of these subvariants?
So with regards to the sublineages of Omicron, with BA.4 and BA.5, these are the most transmissible variants that we have seen yet. In fact, BA.5 has a growth advantage over the other sublineages that have been detected. With regards to severity, we have not seen an increase in severity of people infected with BA.5 compared to the other sublineages, BA.1, BA.2, for example. But this is based on our ability to assess this at a global level. It's based on data that is shared with WHO that's collected by surveillance officers, medical professionals, people around the world. And that data is becoming more and more limited. I just want to mention BA.2.75. At the present time, we have very few sequences of this particular sublineage that are available publicly. But we are concerned about this sublineage as well.
Maria, what are the trends we are seeing with these subvariants?
So we are seeing an increase in case detections around the world. In fact, more than 5.7 million cases were reported to WHO last week, and those are of the cases that we know about. And that is an underestimate because surveillance activities have declined drastically around the world, including testing. Although self-testing is increasing in many countries, that's not captured by surveillance systems. We do see an increase in the proportion of cases that are BA.5. That has grown over the last 4 weeks, and we expect that trend to continue.
In the business report, we take a look at the tourism sector. Plus, we have your regular market updates and more. Danita Rodney reports.
The Tourism Linkages Network (TLN) was established as an initiative to increase the tourism sector's consumption of goods and services that can be competitively sourced locally. Delivering billions in retained earnings over the years, the body said it remains committed to ensuring that there is a reduction in the purchasing gap between tourism and other sectors. Since 2013, the body has been working with members of the manufacturing, agriculture, and entertainment sectors to retain and share the gains of the tourism dollar as it pushes to expand the value chain, reduce poverty, promote community growth, and increase foreign exchange generation for the local economy. Backed by the work of the TLN, the tourism sector is moving to advance its mission of earning annual revenues of $5 billion, grow job opportunities, and increase hotel room stocks to meet the growing demand of stopover arrivals. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Friday, July 29, the US dollar sold for an average of $153.64. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $120.77. The pound sterling traded for $187.04, and the euro sold for an average of $158.67. The following reflects the movement of the GSE indices in Friday's trading session. The GSE index advanced by 1,031 points to close at over 300,000 units. The junior market index declined by 57 points to close at over 4,000 units. The combined market index advanced by 448 points to close at over 300,000 units. And the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 1,802 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 115 stocks, of which 49 advanced, 42 declined, and 24 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, Access Financial Services Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Stocks declined for 1834 Investments Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Berger Paints Jamaica Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, CAC 2009.5% Cumulative Redeemable Preference Shares, and Siboney Group Limited. The following companies represents the overall volume leaders: Wigton Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares with over 9 million units, Indies Pharma Jamaica Limited Ordinary Shares, and JMMB Group Limited 7.35% Cumulative Redeemable Preference Shares with over 5 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Clico Investment Fund was the only active security, posting a volume of 2,220 shares. Zero securities were traded on the Barbados Stock Exchange. In market data for oil edged up ahead of a meeting of OPEC producers this week that may not lead to a further boost in crude supply, although concern about a possible global recession limited gains. Brent crude was up 31 cents to $100.34 a barrel, while West Texas Intermediate crude added 40 cents to $94.29. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, in Trinidad and Tobago, the annual Emancipation Procession returned to the streets of Port of Spain following a 2-year hiatus because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Kimberly D'Souza has more.
Emancipation celebrations have returned for 2022, and one of the most significant events on the calendar is the Emancipation Procession. Education Minister Dr. Nian Gadsby-Dolly, who is no stranger to the procession, having held the Ministry of Community Development, Culture and the Arts portfolio, said the procession signifies unlimited potential.
And this commemoration is important not just for us, but for the children that come behind us to understand that as children, as people of African descent, you can go anywhere you want to, you can do anything you want to in Trinidad and Tobago, and that is extremely significant for me.
Minister of Youth Development and National Service Foster Cummings said the Emancipation Day holidays signify the pride and freedom of the African people.
Coming out of what was one of the most horrific experiences of slavery, and now we meet every year to celebrate that slavery is behind us, and as a people we are free and liberated.
Others who participated in the procession shared the significance of the day.
This is significant for all that we have been through all the years, hundreds of years. It obviously is significant for us as a people to get together and identify with our motherland.
And today is just a day, to commemorate and to remind us of what we have been through and how we have overcome slavery and how we can move forward from that.
One group, Kaiso, who sought to promote sex and gender justice, said they were happy to be a part of the procession for the first time as it raises awareness of their Mapping and Justice campaign. Meanwhile, Calypsonian Dwayne O'Connor said renaming the streets and parks are very important to keeping the ancestors' memory alive.
Like Oxford Street, what they said they're about to do, they already laid a petition to get Oxford Street named after Kwame Ture, one of Trinidad and Tobago's greatest, who of course is well acclaimed across the world, different parts of the world, and in his own homeland. So it's very important that we need to get some of those things done.
One attendee also called on more support from the business community, which he revealed was lacking in their efforts this year.
Grenada National Reparations Commission is continuing to echo its demand that the descendants of those who profited from slavery acknowledge the harms inflicted upon enslaved Africans and their descendants.
Chair of the Grenada National Reparations Commission, Ali Gill, maintains that it is a moral imperative that European institutions that are still benefiting from the legacy of slavery apologize and atone for those unconscionable harms. Marking Emancipation Day on Monday, Gill, in a statement issued, said that in spite of our great achievements, we should never let our ability to resist and rise above those grave injustices stand in the way of fighting for what we know is right and just. Marking 184 years since slavery was abolished by Britain, Gill says the day for this apology has come, and the descendants of enslaved Africans must rise to the challenge and make an apology a reality. Grenada Cultural Foundation Emancipation Panel, as part of Emancipation Day activities, organized a discussion under the theme, A Resilient People Overcoming Challenges. Media personality Brenda Batiste hosted the discussion with guests Dr. Wendy Grenade, Dr. Francis Martin, Dr. Reverend Osbert James, Josh Hector, and Adrian Green. Dr. Grenade highlighted the resilience of the Grenadian people, but there are some areas she wants to see improvement, as her belief is that there's still a long way to go towards achieving the freedom we so deserve.
Bring back that spirit of community where we would look out for each other. You're in your community and there's a young man or young woman who is an alcoholic. What happens to that person? How does the community treat to that person? What systems we have in place at the level of the state? What institutions do we have for psychosocial support, for mental health support? I think there's a lot that needs to be done, but we also have to celebrate what we've done well. This is our emancipation.
Dr. Francis Martin's perspective is that we need to understand the difference in the psychology that the trauma of slavery have caused us as a people of the Caribbean and African descent, as it is not the same for Caucasians. Dr. Martin says that we know even more so now that even the medicines we use to treat chronic diseases in the white population just does not work in the black population.
We are different, we're shaped differently, we behave differently. Why do you want to measure me by some standards that was developed in the Caucasian population? We need our nutritionists to get on board with us for that. As a people, we need to move back and step back and see what it is we have here that can help us heal our own diseases, our own remedies, or things that we can do. And only when we start that going back, stepping back, then we'll be able to move forward and manage all disease for us here in the Caribbean.
This is a ship that could launch 1,000 others. The Rizzoni is the first cargo vessel to carry Ukrainian grain through the Black Sea since Russia invaded on February the 24th.
It was a great feeling. I felt as if we became free after being detained for a long time.
Trailing a pilot ship, the Rizzoni is a test run, bound for Istanbul, then Lebanon. If all goes well, many more will follow. Alexei Goncharenko, a member of the Ukrainian parliament, came to watch history in the making.
It's the liberation of the Black Sea from Putin and from Russian Empire. He tried and did everything he can not to give this ship and other ships possibility to leave Odessa port. And for almost half a year, it was like this. But as you see, he failed.
The ship departed despite several Russian attacks in the region and on the port of Odessa itself since the UN brokered an agreement between Ukraine and Russia for the safe passage via Istanbul. It's been a long time coming, but this is the ship everyone's been waiting for, coursing through wartime waters on its way to feed the world. Ukraine says the shipments will create jobs and provide money to fuel the war effort. As the first of last year's delayed crop leaves, farmers risk their lives for this season's harvest, sometimes led by demining crews, sometimes not. This harvester struck an explosive. The danger on the grain trail continues on the Black Sea journey to Turkey, through waters dotted with sea mines in an active war zone. It's all managed through a joint coordination center in Turkey, an extraordinary collaboration between representatives from the UN, Ukraine, and Russia.
We believe that it's critical to ensuring global food security, so yes, we need to succeed.
Whether this is the beginning of the effort to avert a global food crisis, or the end, depends in part on the voyage of the Rizzoni. John Hendren, Al Jazeera, Odessa, Ukraine.
Well, that's the latest from Ukraine. Let's get more now from Istanbul, where that ship is initially headed. Al Jazeera's Sinem Kosiolu is there.
We are expecting that this journey is going to be around 220-230 sea miles. So the first ship left Odessa port. We are expecting some more ships leaving their ports and joining with the Rizzoni vessel somewhere in the Black Sea. And like a convoy of vessels, they are expected to reach the shores of Istanbul up on the north, the Black Sea shores of Istanbul, before they enter the Bosphorus Strait. There's an anchorage area. All ships, all vessels always anchor there before they get their paperwork done before entering the Turkish Straits. And for these special vessels carrying Ukrainian grains, they will be inspected by a UN-led delegation when they anchor off there. The vessel is expected to anchor off on the shores of Istanbul around 12 GMT, which is around 3 p.m. local.
In sports, the third match between West Indies and India in the gold medal T20 International Cup is being played at Warner Park in St. Kitts today, August 2. The 5-match gold medal T20